In the early months of 1945, as the war in Europe approached its end, something significant was unfolding in the small town of Remagen, Germany. This town was not just a peaceful spot by the Rhine River. It was home to the Ludendorff Bridge, a vital crossing point that had escaped the attention of many. As Allied forces advanced further into Germany, they were focused on breaking through the last defenses. The German High Command, on the other hand, did not realize how important the bridge was. They believed it was too late for the Allies to launch any major operations, and they had decided to focus their resources elsewhere. This decision would prove costly. On March 7, 1945, American troops from the 9th Armored Division approached the bridge. They were surprised to find it still intact. While the bridge had been partially destroyed by the Germans in an attempt to thwart the Allies, it was still usable. A small unit managed to cross it and reach the eastern bank of the Rhine. This was a turning point. As news spread about the capture of the bridge, more troops rushed to secure it. They knew that holding the Ludendorff Bridge could give them a significant advantage in the campaign to invade the heart of Germany. The bridge served as a critical link for the Allies, allowing them to move troops and equipment across the river quickly. However, the situation was not without its challenges. The Germans, realizing their mistake, quickly tried to take back the bridge. They launched counterattacks, hoping to regain control. The fighting was fierce and relentless. Soldiers on both sides faced the grim realities of war, often only a few meters apart, battling for a bridge that held the key to the future of the conflict. Despite the intense fighting and numerous attempts by German forces to recapture the bridge, the Americans held their ground. Reinforcements arrived, bolstering their numbers and morale. The determination of the American soldiers, many of whom were weary from a long war, was remarkable. They dug in and fortified their positions, knowing that the bridge was crucial not just for themselves, but for the Allies as a whole. By March 17, the Americans had firmly established themselves on the eastern bank of the Rhine. The successful capture of the Ludendorff Bridge allowed the Allies to cross the river in numbers and push deeper into Germany. Soon after, this success contributed to the rapid advancing of Allied forces toward the heart of Nazi Germany. The battle for the Ludendorff Bridge in Remagen might not be as well remembered as other conflicts of the war, but it was indeed pivotal. The Allied victory at this location became a symbol of hope and a clear sign that the end of the war was in sight. As the people of Remagen watched the events unfold, they experienced a mix of fear and relief. They had witnessed the devastation of war, and yet the hope of liberation was growing stronger. The capture of the Ludendorff Bridge was a crucial step toward ending the long and brutal conflict, one that had impacted countless lives. On March 7, 1945, American forces from the 9th Armored Division, under the command of Major General John S. Howard, launched a daring effort to capture the Ludendorff Bridge in Remagen. The mission was crucial. If the bridge was destroyed, the Allies would face significant delays in their push into Germany. The attack was not easy. The weather was grim, with rain and chilly winds making conditions difficult for the soldiers. Visibility was low, and the day felt heavy with tension. On top of that, the German defenders were well prepared and determined to protect the bridge at all costs. They understood its importance too, and would fight fiercely to keep it from falling into American hands. As the American troops approached, they moved cautiously but quickly. They knew that timing was everything. Their objective was clear: reach the bridge before the Germans could blow it up. The German soldiers, alerted to the American advance, opened fire, creating a chaotic scene. The sound of gunfire filled the air, and the ground shook with the noise of battle. Despite the fierce resistance, the Americans pushed on, working together under the leadership of their commanding officers. There were moments of quiet urgency when they assessed their next steps. Soldiers crouched behind buildings and natural cover, calculating their moves, communicating with one another, and urging each other forward. They understood the stakes and were motivated by the urgency to secure the bridge. As they drew closer, many soldiers felt a mix of anxiety and determination. They were fighting not just for the bridge, but for the chance to bring the war to an end. The bridge, fragile yet resilient, became a symbol of their hopes and their resolve. Once they reached the vicinity of the bridge, the fighting intensified. Americans and Germans clashed in close quarters. Smoke from gunfire and explosions filled the air, making it hard to see. Soldiers from both sides faced not just their enemies, but the fear and chaos of war. The bridge itself stood as a pivotal landmark above this tumult. The Americans fought fiercely, overcoming the initial German defenses and slowly but steadily gaining ground. As more troops arrived to reinforce their position, they felt a renewed surge of energy. They were not just fighting for a piece of land, they were fighting to change the course of the war. As the day pushed on, the determination of the American soldiers began to pay off. One by one, they pushed further onto the bridge, facing continued resistance but refusing to back down. It was a race against time as they fought to secure a crossing that would allow the Allied forces to push deeper into Germany and ultimately pursue the end of the conflict. Through grit and sheer will, the 9th Armored Division was beginning to emerge victorious. The battle for the Ludendorff Bridge reflected the broader struggle of the war, where every inch gained was hard-won and every soldier's sacrifice mattered. In that moment, on the banks of the Rhine, history was being made amidst the chaos. Despite the fierce resistance from the German defenders, who were ready to blow up the Ludendorff Bridge at a moment's notice, the American soldiers achieved a remarkable victory. They managed to capture the bridge and cross the Rhine River, a significant milestone in their campaign. Securing the bridge opened up a vital route for the Allies. With this strategic point under their control, they could quickly move troops and supplies into the heart of Germany. This rapid deployment was crucial. It allowed the Allies to push forward faster than anticipated, getting closer to Berlin and the end of the war. As American forces streamed across the bridge, they felt a mix of excitement and determination. They were aware that this victory held immense importance, not just for the mission at hand, but for the entire war effort. The capture of the bridge marked a turning point, helping to shift the momentum decisively in favor of the Allies. However, even with its significance, many people overlooked the battle for the Ludendorff Bridge. It was often overshadowed by other more famous clashes, like the Battle of the Bulge and the assault on Berlin itself. Yet, for those who fought at Remagen, that moment was a powerful achievement. The success in Remagen demonstrated the tenacity and bravery of the American soldiers. They faced not just physical challenges, but also the emotional weight of a long and brutal war. Their resolve to secure the bridge represented a collective hope for the future, a hope that the end of the conflict was finally approaching. In the days following the capture, the bridge served as a critical lifeline, facilitating the movement of Allied forces deeper into Germany. Soldiers from various countries joined the Americans in this push, united in their goal to liberate Europe from Nazi control. The camaraderie among the troops grew stronger as they recognized the importance of their efforts. Looking back, the battle for the Ludendorff Bridge may not have been widely praised, but it was an essential part of the larger story of the war. The operation highlighted the courage and determination of a generation that faced immense challenges. Those who crossed that bridge would carry the memory of what they accomplished for the rest of their lives, knowing they played a significant role in the fight for freedom. The German command faced a difficult task in the wake of the defeat at Remagen. There was a strong reluctance to openly discuss what had happened. A mix of pride and the need to keep morale high among troops and the public led to the decision to downplay the significance of the battle. In many reports and accounts of the war, the events at Remagen were often excluded or glossed over. This silence was strategic. By not acknowledging the loss, German leaders hoped to avoid demoralizing their forces or giving the Allies a sense of triumph. They believed that emphasizing victories, no matter how small, was essential for maintaining momentum within their ranks. As a result, the battle for the Ludendorff Bridge faded into the background of history, overshadowed by more famous clashes like Stalingrad and the Normandy invasion. This omission contributed to a skewed perception of the war and the strategic errors that had been made along the way. The defeat at Remagen was one of several critical missteps that had a significant impact on the overall German offensive, but went largely unspoken. War is often remembered through the stories of heroic battles and significant victories, while defeats can be swept under the rug. This was certainly true in Germany's case, where leaders aimed to present a narrative that kept hope alive. Soldiers on the front lines were often left to grapple with the realities of their situation without the full context of their higher command's decisions. The lack of discussion around Remagen also meant that lessons from the battle went unlearned. As the war continued, similar mistakes were made in other contexts. If the German command had openly assessed what went wrong at the bridge, they might have adjusted their strategies and responded more effectively to the advancing Allies. In history, this tendency to ignore defeats can create a mythos around battles that are celebrated, while the lessons from lesser-known but pivotal events remain unspoken. The story of Remagen is a reminder that every battle, no matter how big or small, has its importance, and acknowledging both victories and defeats is crucial for understanding the full picture of any conflict. As the Allies continued their advance into Germany, they encountered a mixed landscape of German defenses that were beginning to crumble. The impact of the war was evident. Many fortifications were weakened and demoralized. The battle for the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen became a telling moment in this unfolding drama. This battle was not just about a strategic crossing. It highlighted significant tactical errors made by the German military. They had underestimated the determination and capabilities of the American forces. While they were preoccupied with other fronts and defensive strategies, they failed to protect this crucial bridge effectively. On the other hand, the American forces demonstrated brilliant execution and coordination during the battle. They worked together seamlessly, making the most of their intelligence and resources. Their ability to adapt quickly to the changing circumstances around them was key to their success. This was evident as they successfully pushed through German defenses despite the adverse weather and fierce resistance. The fight for the Ludendorff Bridge, while not as celebrated as other major battles, became a defining example of how smaller, lesser-known conflicts could sway the direction of larger campaigns. Capturing this bridge allowed the Allies to cross the Rhine and gain a foothold deep in Germany. It was a moment that showed how critical every battle could be in the grand scheme of war. In the grand narrative of WWII, many battles are often highlighted, but Remagen served as a reminder that victories don't always need to be monumental to have a lasting impact. This battle significantly contributed to the Allies' push toward Berlin and ultimately toward the end of the war. It showed that determination and strategy, even at a smaller scale, could change the tide of history. As the American soldiers celebrated their victory, they understood that their efforts at Remagen were part of a larger fight for freedom. It reaffirmed their commitment to the mission ahead and highlighted the importance of every soldier's contribution, no matter how small. In the aftermath of the battle at Remagen, the Allies moved swiftly into Western Germany. The successful capture of the Ludendorff Bridge made it much easier for American and Allied forces to cross the Rhine River. This maneuver significantly sped up their advance into Germany, ultimately impacting the war's conclusion in May 1945. The victory at Remagen was not just a local triumph. It played a crucial role in the overall strategy against the Third Reich. By securing the bridge, the Allies were able to bring in more troops and supplies, which fortified their position as they pushed toward Berlin. The capture of this strategic point helped set the stage for the final push that would lead to the fall of Nazi Germany. However, for the German command and soldiers, the battle at Remagen was hardly discussed. It became a topic they often avoided, overshadowed by more publicized conflicts. The German leadership was keen to focus on the narrative of strength and resilience, especially in the face of mounting losses. This reluctance to acknowledge the defeat at Remagen meant that valuable lessons went unexamined and missteps were not addressed. Although not widely recognized by history books, Remagen was instrumental in shaping the final days of World War II. Those who fought there and witnessed the fierce struggle knew its importance. They understood that even smaller battles could significantly influence the course of the war. As the Allies continued their advance, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of determination and hope. Victory was within reach, but it would come at a cost. Every soldier understood that their efforts, including those at lesser-known locations like Remagen, contributed to the broader mission of ending the war and restoring peace in Europe. So, while the world may have focused on bigger battles, the impact of Remagen remained. a testament to the courage of the soldiers and a crucial moment in the fight for freedom.